Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. US farmers are in trouble. We need to talk about it. I want to tell you a story about my great grandfather and how that pertains to modern days and something that happened during the Great Depression. There's a story out of Fortune. China is actually stocking up on soybeans and it is not buying soybeans from America. And this is going to affect all farmers. I will explain why, even though all farmers do not plant soybeans. It says here, the title of the story is Farmer Says We Are in a Very Dire Situation Ahead of Harvest with Zero Soybean Orders from China, historically the largest buyer. It says Caleb Ragland, a Kentucky farmer and president of the American Soybean Association, is warning of an agricultural crisis as China has placed zero soybean orders for the upcoming harvest. It's a departure from typical patterns where 25% of the US crop goes to China, with prices 40% below 3 year highs and production costs rising. Hundreds of thousands of farmers face losses unless there's a trade resolution between two countries. Now, I want to give you some historical perspective, but first, I have a call out, and I'm very serious to all American ranchers. If you're an American rancher, especially if you are raising beef, please sign up for the free newsletter below because I'm about to do something and make an announcement to cattle ranchers around America to be a part of something that I believe is going to make beef prices low again and bring more beef to more tables in America than we've seen in the last 20 years. I'm not joking. So please sign up down below because I'm going to make an announcement hopefully in the next couple of weeks about this. American soybean farmers are heading into harvest season without a single order from China, it says, right? Historically, its largest customer. Let's go back to the Great Depression. Something that happened right up before the Great Depression was the Roaring 20s. And the American tractor business was booming. It was a new technology and it was really innovative and new, but farmers could not afford these tractors. You see, heavy equipment, and I used to be a buyer and flipper of heavy equipment during the Great Recession. I made a lot of money buying equipment from construction companies and farmers that could not pay their bills anymore. So they sold their equipment because they leveraged themselves too much during the roaring 20s and up until 2008. Same thing happened, right? It's happening right now. You're seeing that the health of the farming sector and the construction sector are weak when companies like John Deere, Bobcat, Caterpillar, Kubota, they're out there making these incredible incentives like 0% financing. When you see 0% financing, it's not the time to race out and go get a loan because you're getting something cheap. It's a time to sit back and go, wait a minute, what's going on here? If they are offering 0%, it's because they can't sell their products, which means even if I'm doing good today, I might not be doing well in the future. Why? Let's use China as an example. China is buying zero soybeans right now ahead of these trade issues, right? Yet, look at this, prices are 40% below 3 year highs, and production costs are rising. What are production costs? The cost of equipment, the cost of employees, and so many different things, right? The cost of energy, fuel, electricity, all this stuff is rising. Okay. Farmers in America are now faced with dropping prices in soybeans and some other commodities. They're too leveraged, they're going to start failing. And China and other countries are going to be able to continue to squeeze by just simply not placing orders. Why? Because what's the first thing the farmers do? They drastically drop their prices. You see, this isn't like an ecological event, like where their crops burn in a fire um, due to an accident, where they can go and pull an insurance policy and get paid back. You can't get paid back when you just simply can't sell your goods. This is very serious. So what they start doing is dropping prices. So even the farmers that have clients, guess what happens? when the price of their crop goes down because other farmers that are used to selling to other countries. And this is something I've been warning about for years, that if this happens, this is going to ultimately be good for the American consumer. Why? Because if you can't sell to China, what happens? You dump it on the open market in America or you find another country. And this can bring prices at the grocery store down dramatically. Now, we still need energy costs to go down, and equipment costs and things like that. But even equipment costs, our prices are starting to wane because manufacturers can't sell their equipment. Going back to the Great Depression, why this was a big deal, my great grandfather ultimately ended up buying up all of his friends' farms because he was warning them not to go into debt during the roaring 20s and over leverage. And these farmers were out there buying up tractors because they were the greatest thing, right? And they were increasing production and all this stuff. Instead of, let's say, a 5 foot swath going down a field, whatever you're doing, harvesting or, plowing, things like that, you could go from 5 to 8 foot, which would, cut your plowing time down by about 50%, meaning you're using 50% less fuel, all these kind of things. I'm just throwing this as an example to get you thinking. Farmers were out there putting loans against their farms to buy this equipment. Well, when the market tanked because people had less money because the stock market was falling precipitously, that's the right word. It was also falling, unemployment was skyrocketing, so there was less jobs available. So more and more people had less money for food and all kinds of stuff. So they went into contraction during the Depression, and then these farmers were left holding the bag because they couldn't pay for their equipment. So they were losing their farms. My great grandfather, because he owned everything cash, he started buying up all these farms from the bank because the bank ultimately didn't want the farms. And then he put his friends back to work on their own farms, almost like a sharecropping thing. But my great grandfather became even more wealthy, right? And he was able to save all of his friends' livelihood. And they know it wasn't his fault because he was warning them this whole time. And he used to farm back in Iowa and in the Dakotas. And it's important to know that these cycles happen over and over and over again. And now the American farmer is about to get hit extremely hard. There's about to be a lot of fire sales on all kinds of things, including food. And that's a good thing. Now, with beef, that's a whole different topic. And I plan on going straight up against one of the largest food meat processors in the country because it's time for a change. You see, if America just sold the food it produces in America, our food costs would be so much less. It's crazy. And then we could sell the abundance onto the secondary market. And I think that's honestly something that should happen. I think that we should give farmers an amazing tax break if they focus on selling in America. Now, think about that. If America's, and if anyone agrees with this, do me a favor. If you think this is a good idea, type yes and then share this somehow with the Trumps. Get this out to them. The government should make all income for farmers tax free. They don't pay any tax if they sell all of their products in America. You see, this would cause such a low amount of price for American consumers because there'd be so much food. Now you'd say, well, that doesn't make sense, Ninja, because that would drive the price of food down and the farmers would be making less money. Well, when you consider how much a farmer makes and pays in taxes, it's pretty darn incredible. See, I've never owned a business that I've lost money in. This is not a joke. I've never started a business where I lose money. Anyone that sits here and goes, "Oh no, I'm just doing this business for write-offs," is a complete moron and shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Um, and farmers are very smart. They're generational based. And what they do is, yeah, they buy equipment and stuff and pay less taxes. But what if a farmer knew that if, as long as I sell my food into America, I'm going to have zero taxes? I don't got to worry about write offs or anything. Well, they would start to look at how much they have and then what markets in America to plug into to be able to make even more money. And that's the thing. Farmers, a lot of them that sell overseas, they're not really looking for markets in America to sell into to make more money because they're working through a brokerage that pushes it off to another country. And this, to me, is a travesty and it has to end. Look, if you're a American rancher, a beef farmer, a cattle farmer, Please sign up for the newsletter because I have an important announcement for something that I believe is going to absolutely change the beef industry and make US beef cheap again and great again. Because there's been a very big conspiracy to stop Americans from eating beef, red meat. Type 1 if you agree with that. Type 2 if you're like, I've never heard of that. And that sounds like a crazy conspiracy, but I actually believe it's 100% true. And I'm going to do something about it. Thank you so much for watching. This is bad news for farmers. Ultimately, it'll be better news for Americans. And for the farmers that are willing to adapt and overcome, they're going to absolutely crush it, just like my great grandfather during the Great Depression. All right, with that being said, the Economic Ninja is out.